right, so I'm currently on the phone with Will. He's another musician that reached out about the interview series going on. So I'm going to go ahead and give him the opportunity to introduce himself.
Hey man, thanks for having me on today. Really appreciate it. Yeah, name's Will. Yeah, I don't really know much else to introduce. But yeah, I'm a guitar player from Ontario, Canada.
Excellent. So I always like to start these interviews, in the beginning. So tell me about when you first found music, and what about music really connected to you and made you want to participate in it?
So like for me, I'm 28 years old, and when the movie School of Rock came out, I was really young. I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I remember watching that movie in theaters for the first time, and I just fell in love with music from there. Wanted to be a rock star from day one, and I'm not a rock star, but I still enjoy what I do. So yeah.
Okay. And since you did have that connection to it and that drive and the motivation to get into that sort of thing, what were kind of your first steps into it? Was it writing, learning an instrument? Describe how you went about that process.
Learning the drums first, actually. Yeah, I started learning the drums first before I started learning anything else. And yeah, I got my rhythm on track before I learned guitar, and then singing and everything like that elsewhere.
Okay. And then how long would you say it took you between like starting the instrument and then to a point where you felt comfortable playing with other people?
I'd say probably about a year, maybe a year and a half, something like that. But it wasn't too long. I had a couple buddies that at the same time one of them was learning guitar. So
Mhm.
him and I, whenever we would hang out after school and stuff like that, we would always jam. And it wasn't like super quality stuff, but that was definitely the starting of me being able to jam with people.
Okay. And so you kind of mentioned it a little bit there, but did you take private lessons or just learned it outside of school, or did you participate in the school band curriculum at all?
I took private lessons at the start, and then I was in the school band at one point also whenever I was in high school.
Okay. And since you were learning drums, did you do like drumline or anything? Any marching band?
No, no, I didn't do any drumline. There was a full kit that I was using.
Okay, okay. I always like to ask that question of the drummers because I myself am a drummer and I was in drumline, so I always like to ask that.
Yeah, you
Uh,
know what? It's something that I wanted to do. It's I just never did it.
yeah, it's fun. It's a cool experience. So once you kind of got into the habit of jamming with your friends outside of school, starting that whole band dynamic type of thing, when did you kind of decide like the type of music and how you wanted to present yourself as a musician?
Well, that's kind of changed all throughout my because like what I listen to has changed. I used to listen to a lot of AC/DC and hard rock and stuff like that, and now I listen to a little bit more like I don't know if you know who Frank Turner is, but more stuff like that, which is more acoustic stuff now. So I started off more on electric guitar and drums and stuff like that, but now it's moved more towards me writing more acoustic stuff.
Okay. And I assume by that you mean more like acoustic, like guitar type stuff, since in general, drums are an acoustic instrument.
Yes, exactly. So I started on the drums, and then after I played the drums for a couple years, that's when I moved to the guitar, and then I kind of ran with the guitar after. I'm definitely more of a guitar player than I am a drummer.
Okay, okay. Um, so are is that the type of genre that you would kind of label yourself as, is like the acoustic singer songwriter type stuff?
Yeah, that or like acoustic indie rock type stuff. Same, yeah, that type of stuff.
Okay. And so how many kind of iterations of your band have you kind of been through? And would you say that it's your band or that you're playing in other people's bands?
Well, it's definitely my band, for sure. It started off with me and two other guys. I had a bass player and a drummer. Um, and then after that, uh, well, then COVID hit not too long ago, right?
Hmm.
So we had our thing going for about a year and a half, something like that, and it wasn't getting too much traction. And then COVID happened. So when COVID happened, me being an acoustic guitar player, that's when I kind of started going solo a little bit and writing a lot of my own solo stuff.
Hmm.
So that's what I've been working on mostly lately.
Okay. And along those lines, since you do identify it as your own project for that style of music, what is the ideal lineup that you would like to have to for presenting that style of music?
Well, me on my acoustic guitar, kind of doing a little bit of rhythm. I would have a lead guitar player, um, maybe. You know, that all depends on which song I'm playing. You know, like there's some songs that I would want a full band, and then there's others that I would just want like maybe me and a kick drum.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So, but if I was doing like a full presentation of everything, I'd have a bass player, I'd have a horn section, I'd have a rhythm guitar, I'd have me on acoustic, which would be the rhythm most likely, and then electric guitar on top of that, and then a bass.
Okay. And so you kind of mentioned that, during the COVID times is when you actually kind of really sat down and started writing solo stuff. Is that kind of how you see yourself progressing forward, is continuing to write, your own solo stuff and then pushing that out?
Yes and no. I've really enjoyed writing my own solo stuff, but I definitely want to work in more of a team setting and have more input from other people, because that obviously helps our creative process, right?
Hmm. Okay. And so what would you like to see happen with your project, your solo project, and also the group project? Because it kind of sounds like there's two different projects that you're fronting right now. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Uh, yes and no. I'm more so. I've definitely swung all my focus over the past 2 years on just the solo project, and I've definitely pushed the other project to the side.
Hmm.
Um, and sorry. Um, and yeah, like I'm not too sure where I want. You know, I'd like people to listen to my music. You know, but I don't expect to be a massive celebrity or anything like that. I like
Hmm.
playing my local shows, and yeah, just being recognized for doing stuff like that. That's I'm good with that.
Okay, so that would kind of be your long term goal there, is to get enough notoriety as to where you're sufficiently living off of making music.
Exactly. Yeah, and I teach on the side too, right? So there's other ways to get around doing that also.
Okay. By teach, do you mean you teach music or like you're a
Yes.
substitute teacher? Okay.
Yeah. I teach drums and I teach guitar on the side.
Okay, so you give private lessons.
Yes, I give private lessons.
Okay, cool. And so how many students have you been through, and what's the kind of atmosphere that you take in being a an individual private lesson giver?
So I in total, I don't know how many students I've been through, but I feel like I've been given the lessons for 10 years now. So it would be at least 100 students that I've had come into my studio and out of it.
Mhm.
Um, the most that I've had at one time was I think 30, and that was right before COVID happened. And then that happened. Obviously, things kind of shut down. So I've got like less than 50% of that now,
Mhm.
working that back up. Um, yeah, and my approach is just make sure you have as much patience as possible, right? Like we don't want to. I don't want to ruin the experience for them. You know, that you want your student to have as much fun as possible, but then
Mhm.
also learn as much as possible at the same time too, right? But you never want to put too much on their plate because then they're never going to want to do it. You know.
Right, right. Um, so putting that back on the table and going back to your music, when you are in the writing process, how do you kind of engage in the creative process? Are you solely thinking about rhythm and then putting lyrics to it and then whatever extra accompaniment would go to it? Or do you kind of have like a stylized vision that you begin working out?
it always starts with the chord progression for me. That's where it starts, and then from then I think of, okay, what lyrics do I think fit the mood. I write about my own life experiences. It's almost everything that I've written about is personal experience. So it's pretty easy. I mean, maybe not easy, but I think it's easier for me to kind of put the pen to the paper because I'm writing about my own life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but definitely it starts with the rhythm and with the chord progression for me.
Okay, and then so let's just follow that down the road. So once you have that in place, is the thought to put lyrics to it, or do you start thinking about like the additional accompaniment to it?
Uh, then it would go to the lyrics after that. Generally, whenever I write, I've got my acoustic guitar and I'm by like a lake or something like that, a little river. I like nature a lot, so that's generally where I would be writing. So yeah, it would go, from the guitar to the lyrics, and then I'd put everything else together once I get in my studio in the house, then I'll be like, okay, well now I think I can add a little bit of bass here, and then tweak it wherever I want to tweak it.
Okay, and so once you do have a suitable enough collection of songs together as to where you feel it justifies a release, what do you think is the best avenue for releasing that and marketing it? Are you thinking like a traditional full EP release or digital releases? What would be your ideal method for that?
So as of right now, I've just been releasing singles onto Spotify and Apple Music and whatever, all the streaming platforms and stuff. Eventually, like uh, I have a full EP recorded as of right now. It hasn't been necessarily released yet. I'm releasing it in little spurts like singles over the next few months. Um, but yeah, it's all going to be released digitally.
Awesome. Um, So, what are some of your absolute favorite memories, like surrounding music and things that have happened to you that really either kind of keep you motivated or have like become life lessons to you?
Well, so back to COVID again. Like if I didn't have my guitar with me during that period of time, then just like I think a lot of musicians, it would have gone a little crazy. It definitely saved me mentally throughout a lot of periods. And when it first started and everything was really, really shut down, I went outside and like I said, I like playing near water and out in nature and stuff like that. So there's this pathway that I was playing in, this little park pathway thing. And as I'm playing my guitar, uh, I got people walking by and stuff, and it just to see the smiles on their faces after they had been locked down, and then now they're outside and they see someone playing a guitar. Like it was invigorating a little bit, and
Hmm.
it made me feel like there was purpose to what I was doing.
Awesome. Any others or that?
Yeah, yeah. So like, high school would be another big one. I was in front of my entire high school, and I did Pink Floyd's "Wish You Were Here." I played the solo for it, and then sung the song, and that would have been another that like one of the starting memories of like, hey, maybe this could do something. Maybe I could go somewhere with this.
Hmm. Awesome. So on those notes, where can people listen to your stuff? And what are links for your social media and everything?
Well, Spotify. So it's my name on Spotify, Will Surplus. Thing on Apple Music and YouTube. Um, and my social media platforms is at Will underscore Surplus underscore music for Instagram, and then Will Surplus Music on Facebook.
Excellent. And I'll make sure that there's links for all those in the description as well. So I always like to give the person that I'm interviewing the opportunity to put out their last word. So just a message that you feel resonates with you that you want to put out there.
Well, so the last song that I just released is it's called "Life Can Be Forgiving," and like as I've talked about COVID quite a few times during this interview, that I wrote the song during it, and it's just kind of a representation of, things can go bad, but sometimes in the end, life can be forgiving, and just keep working towards that final goal.